Yo, what's up? It's your boy E.T. Welcome to another edition of Mass Impact, the educational podcast. Now, look, the reason why I started this, I truly believe that education is the way to close the gap, the wealth gap, the digital divide gap, the opportunity gap. Look, the American dream gap. Can I be honest? Everybody's not experiencing the American dream in the way it's supposed to be experienced. So the reason why we started the Mass Impact, the educational podcast, is to close that gap. Now look, mass is simple. It means motivate, actionable steps, which means what? We're going to give you strategies every week. So we're not just going to motivate you and inspire you, which is important, but we're going to give you actionable steps. And look, it's a support system, y'all. Thus Mass. It's your boy E.T. Now you know. Let's go. What up? What up? What's up? It's your boy E.T., man. Hey, I'm pumped about life. You know, I tell people this all the time. You can definitely, there's definitely stuff to complain about, but I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on all the good stuff that's happening, right? I'm going to focus on all the good stuff that's happening. So here's what I want y'all to do for me. As a matter of fact, hold on, let me tell y'all something. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Don't go nowhere, y'all. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. This is why I'm excited. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere. Hey, this is the official one. This the one. Yeah, I'm going to let y'all.
I haven't seen that yet.
That's the official one. That's the one with CP3 on the back. Michael B. Jordan, prime time. My boy Ed Milet. Listen to me, y'all. I'm excited. Why? Because we do three things here. One, we motivation, y'all. You need to be inspired. Nothing can happen without hope, and nothing can happen without enthusiasm, and nothing can happen without passion. You need that. Now, after you finish with all that passion, you need to do something, okay? So you need to take action, right? And so that's what we're all about. We're not only going to motivate you, but help you take action, and we're going to give you those actionable steps. My wife was like, is that a word? I'm like, let's to be very close here. Webster can make up some stuff. E.T., I'm going to be making up some stuff too, all right? Then we've got the most important one. We all need somebody to lean on. No work that any of us will ever do will be done alone. Any great work requires a team of people. All right. So I got my squad in the building. Hey, we okay. All right. Katie, take it away. I'm too excited. Katie, take it away. What are we talking about?
I'm excited too. Episode 5, Mass Impact. We're going to talk about struggling students today. How do we make sure that we are there for them and never, ever give up on them? And hopefully motivate our other fellow educators that, we know what it's like when it feels overwhelming sometimes and tiring, pulling those kids along. How do we make sure that they are never given up on and that they feel that from us too? And we have a guest here with us today. I know Sam's usually with us. She's wrapping up summer school where she is at today. So we have a special guest, Dr. Townsel. You've been here with us.
No, he ain't no guest.
I know,
He's
right?
no guess.
He does have a kind of a new title, though. So I'll let you maybe jump in and give us a quick another reintroduction. And what is your new role?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Well, let me start by saying this. Thank you for the opportunity to share. I always love it. I learned a lot from E.T. and to just, stand side by side with him on this platform. It's a privilege and a pleasure. So former superintendent of Benton Harbor Area Schools in Benton Harbor, Michigan. And let me tell you how things work. I had the privilege of serving 1,600 students, 1,600 students in that amazing school district of six schools. But after graduating 3 classes, I've been recruited to a different opportunity to serve more students. I have 16,000 students that I'm now responsible for in Calvert County Public Schools in Calvert County, Maryland. It's a great opportunity.
Give me that number again. What? How many?
I go from 1,600 to 16,000, so that's 10x.
Hey, faithful over few, and I will make you rule over more. I love it.
So that's an opportunity to have a greater impact on the lives of young people and educators alike. And I had the opportunity just earlier this week to speak with over 100 educators at American University. And I talked to them about It's a quote that I came up with when I was in grad school at Howard University, and it's simple: set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, then raise the bar. If you set it, meet it, exceed it, then it's time to raise it. And that's exactly what I did even in my professional life. I always raised the bar. And I tell my students that all the time. So Dr. Andrae Townsel, Draytown on Twitter and Instagram. And I always share the educational leadership journey because I know a lot of educators aspire to that next opportunity, whether it's principalship, assistant superintendency, superintendent. It's very hard to do. Let me share one small stat. This is why it's so significant. Black superintendents in the country is less than 4%. You just got to know that. Less than 4%. So I'm less than 4% of that leadership population, and I lead with pride, take a lot of pride with it. So I hope I have mass impact on the young people and the aspiring educators that I have an opportunity to connect with. So thank you so much.
Yeah, Dre, you have and you will continue to do that. And man, we are honored to be a part of your journey. You know, we are honored that we're considered to be as Pastor TJ Ty say, wild dogs. We are the pack. We're excited to be a part of that. For those of you who don't know, the reason why we say wild dogs is because lions, their success rate for hunting is 30%. The wild dog, the African wild dog, has an 80%. So we refer to ourselves as the African wild dog because the percentage is greater. The percentage is greater. So we thank you for representing us, and we thank you that no matter who the students are or the teachers are, we know we're going to kill the game. Let's get straight to it then. We're talking about, supporting our babies that have difficulties, right? And I just think, if you're in school, the nature of school for me, it's just difficult. You know what I'm saying? Like school itself, it's just a challenge because, depending on what district you're in, maybe it's resources, maybe it's teacher methodology, maybe you're in a school where you're seeing multiple teachers. So it's like you're trying to, one cool thing, my mom said, I don't know what happened to you. You did so well in elementary school. I was like, I had one person that I had to, Like I had one person that I had to adjust to, Ma. I don't know if you understand teaching, but when you start going to middle school and high school, and now you got 4 or 5 different teachers, and 4 or 5 different instruction methods. They all, one teacher thinks that this is what it takes to be great. Another teacher thinks this is what it takes to be great. And you're trying to figure all that out. We're also dealing with peer pressure. Now with the internet, we're dealing with, people being teased at another level. It's just so much that's going on. Talk to us, guys. Pick one area and talk to us about an area that you feel is a challenge. And then let's give our students and our teachers and maybe even our parents some tips on what they can do to overcome that. Katie, you want to start?
Sure, I will. I love that you brought up the switch you felt like when you went to the middle school was more expectations and different expectations from different teachers. I hadn't really thought of that a lot. That's something that as educators, we have to be mindful of and make sure that we are being really clear in our expectations and helping students to have that bridge when they move from elementary to middle school. So that's super interesting. I, of course, when you were talking about how you did great in elementary school, what happened in middle school? I, of course, thought about reading right away. You guys know I'm always going to talk about that, but students always tell me when I ask them to share their reading history, they loved reading in elementary school. But in middle school, they stopped loving reading. Yeah. And so I always am asking follow-up questions on why. Why did that happen? What happened in middle school that we no longer read the books or we don't like to read the books? And almost every single time the answer that I'm given is that they didn't like the books that they were made to read when they got to middle school. So they had fun reading in elementary school, then they got to middle school and they didn't like it because they were boring or they didn't connect with them or whatever it was. So that's just anecdotal data. I'm sure there's data I could find on that, but from the students that I've worked with who tended to struggle with reading, their reading scores were low maybe because they weren't as engaged. And so that is one thing that I would throw out as a call to educators is how do we make sure that our kids still love to learn and are engaged in learning? And if that switch happens at that middle school level often, that they're not liking what the reading material is that we're putting in front of them. We don't have to take that material away. We want our learning to be rigorous, but how can we make sure that we add some choice in and add some really good text for kids that is text that they are going to enjoy reading, going to connect with, text that has characters that they can see themselves in, so that they're feeling still engaged and connected with the reading and learning that's happening as they move up in grade levels.
I love it. I
want to say this. My blood is boiling. I feel like double dutch. I'm ready to just jump in. So I'm probably raise my hand just so I can get that opportunity. I don't want to get too long-winded, but I'll say this. With the young people that I deal with, man, you got to understand we are emerging from a pandemic still. And some of our young people are still coming with adverse childhood experiences. What I found out during that pandemic is that the opportunity gap widened. And what I also found is that Wi-Fi was a luxury. But our young people still have access to information at their fingertips. We talk about social media and the peer pressure that comes with that. Once upon a time, I graduated high school in 2002, but technology wasn't really developed back then. You can get into a fight, get beat up, or win a fight, and that'd be done. It'd be a legend to talk, something to talk about. But nowadays, people are recording things and they get caught up. Some young people have to relive trauma over and over and over again. I mean, if I had to relive some of the experiences I had in 7th grade, that would really be a problem for me as a grown man today. But one thing that we focus on in the education space with young people, especially coming back into that in-person learning, is focusing on that social and emotional piece, because academic is going to come. Again, information's at the fingertips. Our kids are smarter today than they were yesterday. But the 5 core competencies of social and emotional learning that I learned that is not only great for kids, but also adults, is 5 of them. The first one is self-awareness. You got to know who you are and what you bring to the table, plain and simple. I teach our kids, hey, know who you are, know your skill set. If you're on the football team, I was an offensive lineman. I'm an old lineman. I'm 6'5", 300 pounds. Know your role. Protect the quarterback and open up the lane. And the other one is self-management. Teach them discipline. Understand, listen, you can't just jump out there and jump on the first thing. There's consequences to actions. So have that good old self-management. And then social awareness. Understand what's going on around you. What's happening in the neighborhood? What's happening in your community? What's happening in the classroom? And then relationship skills, having great relationships, not only with your peers, but your teachers, your educators. Good relationship skills with people, can that take you a long way, just having great relationships. And the last thing, the 5th core competency, is responsible decision-making. Just making good, flat-out decisions. We all know what's right and wrong. Mama taught us that long time. Grandma told us a long time. What's right, what's wrong? You know what I mean? So making great decisions that will ultimately take you where you have to go. But you need to be connected to mentors like Vondale, have leaders that you can follow like the ETs, the Miss Katie's, follow directions. The best thing you can do on social media is follow directions. If you get some good games, follow directions.
Absolutely. I love it. Talk to Vondale. Bring us home.
Hey, can I, man, you all in my Kool-Aid, because this is our curriculum, the social emotional learning curriculum. And don't be afraid to spend a lot of time on self-awareness, because that's the first level of the domain, the foundation. And what I'm finding is the identity formation, especially for our boys and young men of color, many of them don't have a clue who they are. So that's why it's easy for them to join a gang or pick up a pipe and poke. And what that simply means is some language I learned from my young people out here in Chicago. I said, pipe and poke, what is that? He said, that's a gun. And when we poke you, we robbing you at the gas station. He said, I don't want to have to do it, but I do it to survive because there's no jobs out here. And I want to say this, when we talk about the classroom, one of the biggest things is the old adage of differentiated instruction. It's not a one size fits all. You cannot teach every single kid the same way. Multiple intelligence. That's what we learn in the educational track. So you have the auditory learner, you have visual learners, you have bodily kinesthetics. Kids learn through movement. Don't be afraid to get outside the box in terms of content. And I think the most effective teachers that I've had are the ones who was able to reach me through multiple intelligences. Because I'm a very visual learner. I can pick up things auditorily, but I have to write them down for me to remember. And a lot of our kids are art-centric, right? Music-centric, culture-centric, especially here where I live in Chicago. It's like culture and music and art is huge. And if we're not going through those avenues, we lost the kids.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to differentiate the instruction, and don't be afraid to spend a lot of time on that self-awareness. Like you talked about, Doc talked about self-management, those areas, because it leads to the relationship building pieces of the social emotional learning. So, man, you all in my Kool-Aid. I can talk about this stuff all day.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
I have a question, Doc. I'm going to throw at you just from a superintendent's perspective. I'm kind of curious because I love the conversation of differentiation, especially when we're talking about kids that struggle, right? I could talk about that all day long. Like, how do we reach kids, make learning relevant, change it up, what we're doing, and bring in choice and things to get them engaged. But from your perspective, I'm kind of curious as to how you tackle that, because I know there's this, fidelity piece that so many districts, they want everybody to be doing the same thing, adopting the same curriculums, making sure everything's done with fidelity, which I know there's so much value to that too. But how do you make sure both things are happening, that we have good curriculum taught with fidelity, but we're making sure that the art of teaching is happening and we're recognizing every student in front of us and that they can't all learn exactly the same?
And you know what? I'm so happy that you asked that question. And this is free game right here. If you're an administrator, teacher, principal, whatever, listening, free game. It's the 3 A's: athletics, academics, and arts. We're enhancing the student experience in athletics, academics, and art. Listen, everyone's not the star athlete, plain and simple. But you still have to have that lane for everyone. When you talk about the arts, you talk about visual arts, language arts, performance arts, anything. By the grace of God, my natural born talent is drawing. I can draw very, very well, and I also make music very, very well. And you want to activate the schema of whatever young person that you're teaching. It's one philosophy of teaching called understanding by design, and that's beginning with the end in mind. So you always ask that essential question. That essential question should activate the schema. Any objective that is being taught in the classroom must be connected to the real world. Plain and simple. Our kids are scrolling on their social medias looking at the same stuff. I learned this from Eric Thomas. They say information changes situations. But we take it a step further. When I talk to my kids, I say, listen, information without the application leads to frustration. So don't just get the information and sit on it, apply that information. So educators must meet the kids where they are, have real objectives connected to what kids are doing in the real world. You want kids engaged. If kids are not engaged, listen, I don't care if you have Albert Einstein teaching the classroom. You have to be engaging with the curriculum that you're teaching. It's so much that you can bounce information off of that's working in the real world. So activating that schema for the young person, that's the cheat code. But as an administrator at the superintendent level, when I talk about elevating the student experience, it's in athletics, it's in academics, and it's the arts. Just give you the best athletic opportunity possible, the best academic opportunities possible, from advanced placement to international baccalaureate, and to also advancement via individual determinations called AVID, working with how do you raise the ceiling and the floor at the same time. And when you talk about the arts.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Don't rush past that. Raising the ceiling and what?
And the floor at the same time. This is the same thing. So it's not only focusing on your high achievers or only focusing on your low achievers. It's both and. How do we increase academic achievement over time for all that you serve? And by the grace of God, I've done that at every level that I've worked at.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, I'm sitting back here. Coach, I'm ready. Coach, you got 3 superstars. I'm like, Coach, let me get in, Coach. Let me say this, man. And y'all know I'm famous for this. This is one of my videos that went viral. What's your why? And kids have to know, why am I reading? Why am I reading? What's the purpose of this? Like I said before, I know why you doing it, because your check is. And that's why you motivated. Your check as a teacher is attached to their learning experience. So you got a reason to get up. Your rent, your mortgage, your car note, your lifestyle, like that's what's making you get up and go into a classroom and tell kids they need to. Now, for some of you, it may also be a love or a passion, but at the end of the day, you're doing it to affect your lifestyle. So when a kid is coming into a room, he got to know why. She got to know why. Why am I? And listen, you would do a better job if you could connect the learning experience to a real why. Yep. Because here's the deal. Once you connect it to a real why, you no longer have to teach. You only have to teach because you haven't activated the why. So you got to come there every day and keep trying to encourage them to study and learn because they don't know why they're doing it. Listen to me. This is real simple, y'all. This is some adult stuff, but it's simple. I don't like driving, right? And there are times that my career puts me on the road and I have to drive. I'm going to have to drive 30 minutes to a city or whatever. I promise y'all, this on life. My wife would always say to me when I was like, man, I don't feel like driving. She's like, pretend like we're in high school and you getting on that bike and coming to see me. Or pretend like we're married and you getting off that plane and you're driving home to see me. And I'm like, let's go. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go. Right? She's just like, yo, she just like, yo, I know you're not, but you remember being a teenager and you wanted to see me and you would get a bike and you would ride that bike 2 miles, 3 miles to come see me. You remember you go to church because I was at church. You remember you went and got your GED because I told you I was about to leave you and I was going to college and I wasn't waiting for you and I was going to find another boyfriend while I was in college. Like, you remember, I'm telling y'all, when she says that, I'm like, she like, get in there and read that book. Get in there and write that book. Like, anytime I don't want to do something, she says to me, remember the thing that motivates you and pretend that thing is that thing.
Yes.
And I go in there like, ha, let's go. So I'm saying as teachers, you're making your job harder than what it needs to be. Students, you're making school harder than what it needs to be because you've not attached something meaningful to it. And once you attach something meaningful to it, when somebody told me, hey, Eric, I know you don't like English, but you don't like English because all you see it as is doing a bunch of work, turning in a piece of paper to an instructor. They get to decide what your grade is. Like, they get to look at your paper and decide what's right about it, what's wrong about it. Somebody came to me one day and said, hey, Eric, you're a phenomenal writer. I said, why you say that? They said, because you're a phenomenal storyteller. They said, do us a favor, stop writing for grades and learn how to write so one day you can write a book. I was like, oh, let's go. And it changed everything for me because for me, I don't know why, but I wasn't motivated by another human putting a number on a piece of paper. I wasn't motivated by 770 or 82%. Like, I wasn't motivated by that. I wasn't motivated by all that red on that didn't challenge me. But when somebody said, yo, if you know how to talk, you know how to write. They're not too far from each other, believe it or not. Like, the same words you're speaking, the same thing you're doing on paper. It's a different skill set, but it all has the same root or foundation, words. And I was like, I got it, And so I just want to say, if you're a student listening, you don't rely on a teacher. They may not be skilled or talented enough to teach you. It's a reality. You need to love yourself enough that if you got to be somewhere 180 days for 13 years, you ought to love yourself enough that you're not just going in there for 180 days and wasting 180 days. Since you have to be there anyway by law, at the end of the 180 days plus the 13 years, you ought to come out of there with something that is going to put you in a situation where you never have to worry about if you're going to eat or if your family's going to eat.
Can I piggyback off of you, E.T., for a second?
Please, Superintendent.
Man, I got chilled right now. I'm fired up. I'm going to be honest with you. So here's the deal. This is what I learned in educational leadership, and you talk about that burnout from teachers and educators, man. Motivation is one thing. But then discipline is the second. It's motivation versus discipline. Because a lot of us get motivated, get fired up, we jump in and we in there all the way. And then discipline has to kick in, because when you talk about that why, that same thing that got you going, got you started, that eventually fades out.
Absolutely.
I learned from my superintendent colleagues, Dr. Barry Davis out of South Carolina. And I'm gonna use what he talked about and try to put it in this analogy. So to me, this is the anatomy of a fire. When you talk about getting people engaged and motivated, that's the spark. You first spark them, and then from that spark comes a flame, and then now that flame is there. Then there's a burn. Or excuse me, there's a fire. From that spark, it becomes a flame. Then there's a fire. People are fired up. But then now you have to burn. If you ever made a fire, my parents.
Yeah.
Michigan. Once that fire get rolling, how do you keep that fire going? How do you get that burn? You got to continue to put wood in every little newspaper. You got to continue to prod it to get that burn. That's what it takes to really stretch it over time and to not burn out. Because you burn out because you're not putting anything else into that fire. So, motivation is one thing, but then the next thing, after you motivate, after you spark, you got that flame and that fire, now you got to burn. And that burn is nothing but discipline. And staying disciplined. Listen, discipline is very simple. It's doing the right things consecutively over a long period of time. Discipline.
Yeah. That's why I want you to go. You said it. It's the motivation, which is what you need to start. It's the discipline, what you need to keep going. And it's the consistency, doing it over a long period of time. And here's the deal. You already have to go for 13 years. There's no reason you shouldn't come out with a skill set.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just no reason, And so I want to say focus, because you can be in an environment and it can be a blessing and you not get the blessings from the environment. You have to be very intentional and deliberate. So I want to add to that. What can we do for those of us who are in school and we're having a challenge, whether it be a teacher or whether it be a student? Focus. Look, I'm honestly, guys, I have, there was a time where, I studied Spanish off and on for a few years, and I remember waking up one day, I was at a resort and, I was just doing a little something, but I was listening to them talk and I didn't understand what they were saying. And I was like, yo, bro, you didn't put in like 3-4 years off, bruh. Why don't you, and so there were a couple variables, my instructor, his time, my time. And I just like, yo, no, you got to get focused, bruh. Like you got the internet, you have people, other people, like you got to get focused. And just really told myself that once you get focused, then you're going to be able to. And so, of course, reading is on a whole nother level, being able to do sentences. Just because I got to the point, I was like, you've been around, but you're not. And so I want to say to my students, if the government, if the federal government, if the state, if the local city, county, whatever, if they're forcing you to go to school, they're forcing you to learn to read, write, math. If they're forcing you to do that, focus.
Right.
And make sure that if you have to be there from 8 to 3, 8 to 3:30, 7:30 to 2, whatever the block schedule is, however they doing it, make sure you're getting something out of it. That is a lot of time to waste. And I must say this to y'all, at 51 years old, studying something new, the brain just ain't the same brain that it was when I was 12 or 13 or 14. It's just not the same. I don't even have the same type of time and concentration that I had. Like I can't even concentrate on stuff like I used to. It's just so much going on. You'll never have the brain that you have at 12, at 15, at 16. It'll never just so naturally absorb information the way it does at 10. I promise you, at 51, you got to work. You got to work. You got to work that if I had a 3-year-old sitting there listening to Spanish, he or she would just, their brain would just soak that stuff in and memorize it because there's not a lot of other junk in it. Your brain is the purest it's going to be, K through 12. It's the purest. It's the most ready. It's prepped and primed to learn. Get through whatever you have to get through. To get to whatever you have to get to. I'm going to say that one more time because I like hearing that one. I don't even know if I'll remember it. Get through whatever you got to get through so you can get to whatever it is you need to get to. And only you know what you need to get to. Only you know what you need to get to. I need to get to this Nobel Prize. I need to get to this New York Times bestseller. I need to get to this Wall Street Journal. I know what I need. What do you need to get to?
Yeah.
Figure that out. Self-awareness. We're going back to the beginning.
Sure.
Self-awareness. Figure out what you need to get to, then wake up every single day. Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no
Yeah.
to keep me from getting to you. I forget my motile. To keep me from getting to you, babe. It should be no obstacle that should keep you from getting to the best version of yourself. Katie, let's round robin, get out of here. Give us one last closing 60-second thought.
You got it. So you were just speaking to the students, and I would just want to speak to the educators that make sure your students hear that message. That's our job, is to make sure that the kids are hearing the message of focus and get to know what your why is and become self-aware. And it's all of our jobs because they're all our kids. And so even if you teach biology or math or reading or second grade or 12th grade, we have to make time for teaching that. And it's okay if you don't already know how to do that. Like, I don't think that was my specialty. And I was Googling and finding the best Eric Thomas videos to show to my students because he had the words that I didn't have, right? Do whatever it takes to make sure your students, especially those that are struggling and need us, hear that message so that they can elevate to get where they all need to be able to be.
Love it. Talk to me. Superintendent Dre, talk to us.
Yes, sir. Listen, you cannot create more time, but you can create more value. Listen, change is inevitable, but progress is optional.
That is so good.
Change is inevitable, but progress is optional. And lastly, set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, raise the bar. Repeat, set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, raise the bar. Last time, set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, raise the bar. Thank you.
Talk to me, Vondale. Talk to me.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to tap into the multiple intelligence, bodily, kinesthetic, auditory, visual, and don't be afraid to differentiate that instruction. Remember, it's not a one size fit all. Everybody learns differently. Tap into the greatness that's on the inside of every single child.
Yeah. Talk that talk, y'all. Talk mass impact. Mass impact. All right. We'll see you guys next week. As always, it's time to go to the principal's office. That's Coach B. Coach B, take us away.
Welcome back, everybody, to the office hours on another episode of Mass Impact, the education podcast. Not just any education podcast, mind you, but the education podcast. Today's topic is encouraging struggling students, and we have a guest back in the space, back in the place. You know him, you love him. Dr. Townsel was joining us again today and blessed us with his presence. Always great to have him on. But one of the main messages that was given during today's episode was, let's make sure, let's do whatever it takes to make sure that all of our students know that we believe in all of them and that they are all capable of success. Isn't it a funny thing how so often their perception of reality is based on what we believe about them, almost as much, if not more, than what they believe about themselves. You see, they look to us to be that role model. They look at us to model the behavior, the thought processes, the belief patterns that they believe they should adopt as well. So if we can make sure that we are showing that we believe in them, that we are showing that we care about them, that we are showing that we believe that they are capable of success, they're going to start to think the same thing too. Dr. Townsel had a great, powerful reminder about this. He said, set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, and then raise the bar, right? Set, meet, exceed, raise. Set the bar, meet the bar, exceed the bar, and then raise the bar. Now, this is a double-sided statement here. It's not just for the kids. This is for us too. In our professional lives, we have to do that. There's always more room to grow. Even if we feel like we're doing everything right and we're setting the bar in our school and our district, we still have to be the ones to set that bar, meet that bar, exceed the bar, and then raise the bar again. It is a constant process of growth. Now, the kids have to understand this too. It's not, there's no such thing as you get an A in class one time and then you're done. And then we never have to work hard again. And of course we know this, and it sounds so simple and so silly to say it, but we have to instill this culture intentionally in the kids in our classroom. So make sure that the kids know just as well as you do that you can't just set the bar, you can't just meet the bar, you can't just exceed the bar, but you have to keep raising the bar. Vondale had a great point toward the end of the episode. He said, think outside the box and use multiple intelligences to engage and reach all students. What does that mean? Seeing, hearing, and doing. We all know that kids learn different ways, but what about something totally outside the box? What if you can use your creativity? What if you can use a past experience, maybe a past job experience that you had, there's some other life experience that you've had that'll allow you to create new activities that nobody else has ever done, allow you to create new games in the classroom, new methods of teaching, new interactive ways to engage the students that maybe nobody else can do because they don't have these specific life experiences that you've had. Use every tool in the tool belt, every trick that you've got up your sleeve, use it to engage those kids. And last but not least, E.T. closes out by saying, what's your why? And how can we remind the kids of what's your why? So we have to make sure that all of our kids know that, especially the ones who are struggling, especially any of them who might be going through a particular period, a time period of struggle. We've got to help them, number one, identify what their why is. And number two, we have to help remind them of it, especially in those times of struggle, because that's what's going to put them back on track. And we have to play an active part in that. Not all of these kids are just going to know what their why is. We need to help them discover that. And once it's been discovered, we have to remind them. A saying that I've always loved is a lot of times we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. Because how many times have we learned something and we know something, but then we just don't take action on it, we don't execute. We have to be reminded, and that's our place in the classroom, to remind those kids, hey, what's your why? And that's going to help them get back on track, right? I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mass Impact. As always, I've got a quick story before you go. See, I was at this gymnastics camp a couple of weeks ago, and I used to go there almost every summer growing up. I spent about a decade out there. I know I don't look old enough to spend a decade anywhere, but I spent about a decade out there every single summer from the ages of 12 to 22. And I was a gymnast there. I was a counselor. I was a camp coach. I was everything. And I kind of climbed the ranks of camp. And every time that I went back to that camp, I'd always wear something. There's this little guy right here, right? I don't know if you can see that, but this is my championship ring from Big Ten championships as a gymnast. Actually, this one was won as a coach at the University of Michigan. And every single time that I had gone back to that camp in the last couple of years just to come visit and say hey to everybody, I always had this ring on my hand. And something funny happened to me the last time that I went. This was just a couple of weeks ago. I went back to the camp and I felt no inclination to put this ring on. I had it with me. It was in my backpack. I didn't want to put it on. I started thinking about that. Why now, after all this time, am I going to stop wearing this thing? And it almost become my signature because I wore it all the time. Anytime anybody from that camp saw me, I had on the ring. And what I realized was that I have been going through so much personal growth in the past 2 or 3 years that I no longer feel the need to hide behind this. I no longer feel the need to hide behind my experiences, my accomplishments. I don't care if anybody knows what I've done or not. It doesn't matter because I know me and I can stand on who I am, not what I've done. You know, E.T. always says, you owe you. I like to say, you know you. You know you better than anybody else. And so you should know how valuable you are intrinsically, not withstanding it from any of your accomplishments or your awards or recognition that you may have received. You know you, and you know how valuable you are. You know how important you are. You know how critical you are, not just to everybody around you, but especially to those kids that you teach in class every single day. So now I know that you already know this, but just take some time, because I know teaching is such a thankless job. Just take some time and think about who you are. Not the stuff that everybody writes about, not the stuff that you open up the newspaper, you see your face in there and you say, oh, you've been recognized for such and such achievement. No. Take some time and think about who you are, the energy, the soul that you put towards everything that you do in life. And stand on that and walk in that energy and be proud of who you are. Don't worry about everybody else. When you're proud of you, it's going to show up in that classroom just like it will everywhere else in life. And it's going to change your life for the better. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Mass Impact, the Education Podcast. We'll see you